On behalf of Deshkal Society and our partner organizations as well as the audience, I welcome our chief guest, the Honorable Vice President, to the first National Conference on Factors of Poor Learning. We are extremely delighted and honored to have you in our midst. During this three-day conference, we will deliberate on the various challenges, opportunities, and practices for ensuring inclusive, equitable, and quality learning for all, with a special focus on including socially diverse children. I would like to invite Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak, founder of Sulabh International Social Service Organization, to the podium.
I've been working in the field of untouchability, social discrimination, sanitation, video hosts, so on and so forth, water. But in education, I am very happy that this conference is taken care of, socially diverse, and to social inclusion of the people, the minorities, in this conference, that how the education should be given to them and how they can improve their learning abilities to come on a par with others.
The concern today is fourfold. One, to build pluralism in education in the face of a strong homogenizing orientation of state policies. Two, raise the quality of education in the face of an overall decline in standards of both schools and teachers. Three, ensure that the first generation of students, coming as they do from depressed social backgrounds and lack support for learning in their family, learn and are able to realize a satisfactory learning level. 4. Obliterate, if not eliminate, the great divide between private and public schools, which has emerged as the basis of a new stratification in society, and to a large extent obstructs the goal of equality and social justice.
This dialogue about the quality of education among the poor people cannot remain a conversation among a small group of people. If we have, as the concept note says, the problem is the dominant ideology. The dominant ideology manifests itself on a number of fronts, almost on every front. And for that very reason, intelligent, involved, concerned scholars and activists who need to find ways of, if I may say, ensnaring the media into their concerns. Media, by definition, does not collectively would place much higher priority value on the subject. The task would be to identify concerned, sensitive, interested media person, make them interested, get them involved with your projects, get them involved, concerned about, if you have some research results, share it for, if you want it for wider dissemination. The media is equipped to break down complicated things into easily comprehensible, sometimes easily comprehensible slogans also.
Now I'd like to invite Dr. Sebastian Katia, Secretary, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India.
We had conducted National Achievement Survey throughout the country in all the states, and in the National Achievement Survey, Cycle 4 in Class 5, which was conducted in 2015, we found that 43% of the students in the sample scored less than 35 marks in reading comprehension in Class 5. Similarly, 37% scored less than 35% marks in mathematics, and 30% scored less in less than 35% in environmental studies. As many as 64% of students could not score more than 50% in reading comprehension. So, similar are the results for mathematics and environment studies. So, this shows that the teaching and learning that we are providing in the schools, it is not reaching all the children. And the other aspect to look at is that performance of certain categories of students is significantly below the other categories of students. For example, in this cycle, performance of SC and ST students was significantly below the other categories. And in many states, performance of ST students was even lower than the SC students. What are the major factors of learning in the school? I would classify it into basically 5 major factors. One is the first and foremost is the availability and quality of teachers and the classroom processes, which would include curriculum, textbooks, pedagogy, all together activity-based learning. Then the third is the assessment and evaluation of students. I think that also is a major factor in learning. The fourth one is the effectiveness of the school. How does the school provide the environment to the children? And school leadership also is another major factor. Then the fifth, but not the least important, is the community involvement in the school. This is basically if the community demands better quality education, I think those schools do better. And that's why in many cases the first generation learners and all, if the parents are not very aware about what to ask the teachers, and that's why we need to have social audit of the performance of the schools.
I request the Chief Guest, the Honorable Vice President of India, to inaugurate the conference.
Friends, in the last decade, especially with the coming into force of the Right to Education Act, we have made substantial gains in spread of elementary education. Let me list some of these. 1. Some 3.5 lakh schools have been opened since 2006, and 99% of India's rural population now has a primary school within a 1 kilometer radius. 2. A survey in the year 2014 reported that 84.4% elementary schools now serve midday meals. 48.2% had proper and functioning toilet for girls, and 73 schools had available drinking water. 3. The enrollment of girls has increased slightly from 48.12% in 2009-10 to 48.19% in 2014-15 at the elementary level. For boys, the enrollment at primary school is now 52%. And 4. A 55% decline in dropouts was also reported in the age group 6 to 14 years between 2005 and 2014. So, despite these significant gains, a critical appraisal of the elementary education scenario reveals that large gaps in implementation exist. India still has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world, which is more than the out-of-school children in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. There is also a great disparity between urban and rural education, and children from different social and geographic backgrounds have radically different schooling experience. Allow me to cite some aspects of it. Firstly, answering a question in the Rajya Sabha on the 10th of March this year, The Minister of HRD said that in the year 2014, some 6.064 million children remained out of school. Out of these, a massive 4.6 million, or 76%, belong to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other religious minorities. Secondly, the recent report of the Committee for the Evolution of the New Education Policy set up by the HRD Ministry states that while the gross enrollment ratio in elementary education is satisfactorily high, the quality in terms of learning outcomes is undeniably poor. And Dr. Kuntia has commented on some aspects of this. It cites as evidence the ASER report of 2014, and one cause of it, it is stated, is teacher absenteeism, estimated at over 25% every day. Despite all the government and societal efforts, the overall literacy rate in the year 2011 was 73%, with a noticeable gap between male literacy at 80.9% and female literacy at 64.8%. Fifthly, if the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and religious minority children comprise 76% of those out of school, the level of literacy amongst them cannot but be reflective of this state of affairs. In regard to the largest religious minority, the 2006 Sachar Committee report had observed that only 17% of them above the age of 17 were found to have completed matriculation as compared to the general average of 26%. Sixthly, another report in the year 2013 found that the level of matriculation education amongst Muslims both in rural and urban areas is lower than even scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. This is also evident in higher education. Seventh, the Global Monitoring Report of 2012 ranked India a low 102 out of the 120 countries of the Education for All Development Index based on progress in universal primary education, adult literacy, gender parity, and the quality of education. And eighth, some surveys reveal that while enrollment in elementary education has increased, there has been a decline in the educational outcomes, with abilities in reading, writing, and other comprehensive skills deteriorating amongst children between the ages of 6 and 14. For instance, according to the ASER report 2014, only a fourth of all children in Standard 3 could read a Standard 2 text fluently, a drop of more than 5% over 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, an effort is being made to address some of these lacunae. As indicated in the 2014 assessment report and in the recently released document providing the direction and inputs for a new educational policy, with the promise that address issues of gender, social, cultural, and regional disparities with an emphasis on diversity will be properly addressed in the curriculum that will also cover issues of social justice and harmony and legal measures in order to avoid social discrimination. Discussion on the document is in the public domain. The final shape of policy is awaited, and I am sure your deliberations in the coming days will be a valuable input.
I invite Sri Sanjay Kumar, Secretary of Deshkal Society, to come on stage for a vote of thanks.
At first, I would like to thank Honorable Vice President of India for acceding to our request to inaugurate such esteemed assemblies to sit before us. In the same vein, I also thank to Dr. Harish Khare, Dr. Sebastian Katia, and Dr. Vindeshwar Pathak for being the guest of honor. In a special privilege for me to delivering this vote in the presence of Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, at whose field I have learned incapably much.
I request Kanan Kusum, a student of class 6, to present a Madhubani painting made by her to the Honorable Vice President.
No, you have to come with. Hold it. Yeah, exactly.